They thought they could scare my family. They thought 3 bikers in leather jackets and roaring engines would be enough to make my wife cower and me surrender. But what they didn't know, what they couldn't have imagined, was that they had picked the wrong woman, the wrong family, and the wrong man to intimidate. 3 minutes after they rolled into my driveway, they weren't the ones issuing threats anymore. They were the ones begging me to stop. It all started on a Tuesday afternoon in Oak Ridge Meadows, the kind of neighborhood that looked perfect on a postcard, but was run like a dictatorship by our HOA president, Loretta. On the surface, Oak Ridge was quiet. White fences, manicured lawns, kids riding bikes down wide suburban streets. But underneath that picture-perfect surface, there was tension brewing, because Loretta had made it her life's mission to control everything and everyone. My wife Sarah and I had moved here 2 years earlier. We wanted a quieter life after my time in the Marines. I'd done my tours, seen enough of the world's chaos, and thought I'd found peace in this sleepy little suburb. Sarah loved gardening, keeping chickens, and building a home that felt alive. But Loretta, the so-called Queen of Oak Ridge, saw every chicken, every woodpile, every garden trellis as a personal insult to her vision. First it was the chicken coop. She claimed it was against community aesthetics. Then it was the firewood stack near the side fence. After that, she even cited me for leaving my truck parked on the driveway overnight instead of in the garage. Every week, a new notice. Every week, another fine. I ignored most of them. They weren't legal, and half the neighbors had already grown sick of her power trips. But ignoring Loretta was like poking a hornet's nest. She wanted submission, not resistance. And when she realized her petty fines and threats weren't working, she escalated. I pulled my truck into the driveway that Tuesday afternoon. The late afternoon sun beating down, the hum of cicadas thick in the air. I remember the crunch of gravel under my tires, the way the wind carried the smell of freshly cut grass. For a split second, it felt like any other day, until I saw them. 3 men in leather vests stood in my backyard, their motorcycles idled by the curb, growling like restless beasts. And in front of them, backed against our chicken coop, stood Sarah. My wife is strong, tougher than most people I know. She'd grown up on a farm, knew how to wrangle animals twice her size, and never backed down from a fight. But even I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her eyes darted between them, calm on the surface, but calculating every move. One of the bikers leaned too close, a grin stretched across his face. His teeth were yellowed, his hands tattooed. He thought he was intimidating her. He had no idea what was coming. I killed the engine, stepped out, and the world seemed to sharpen. Every detail burned itself into memory. The crunch of my boots on gravel, the weight of the coffee mug still in my hand, the way Sarah's eyes flicked to me with a flash of relief. The leader spun to face me. "HOA business," he barked, like it was some kind of badge of authority. HOA business, as if that gave him the right to trespass on my land, threaten my wife, and stand there smirking. "You've got 30 seconds to explain," I said, my voice low, steady, the kind of tone that made rookies in boot camp snap to attention without thinking. The biker smirked, cracking his knuckles. "President Loretta doesn't like you ignoring notices. Consider this encouragement." Encouragement. That was his word for it. Loretta had sent thugs to intimidate my wife, and she thought it would break me. Instead, it lit a fuse. 3 minutes, I told them. "You'll regret not leaving in 3 minutes." They laughed. They thought I was bluffing. The first one, the leader, stepped closer to Sarah, reaching out like he was going to shove her aside. That was his last mistake. Before his hand even brushed her shoulder, my body moved. Training isn't something you forget. It's burned into your muscles, ready to fire when the situation calls. I grabbed his wrist, twisted hard, and drove him face first into the gravel. The impact sent dust rising. My coffee mug didn't even spill. His groan filled the air, cut short when I pinned him with a knee. Next, I said evenly. The second came swinging wild. His fist telegraphed a mile away. I ducked under, hooked his arm, and used his own momentum to flip him straight into the chicken coop fence. The hens exploded in a flurry of feathers, squawking like alarm bells. Sarah actually smirked. Third hesitated, revving his bike like the noise alone could rattle me. I walked straight at him, grabbed the handlebars and yanked hard. The bike toppled sideways, pinning his leg under half a ton of steel. He howled, thrashing uselessly. I crouched over him, my voice low. "Tell your boss, next time she wants to send a message, she better write a letter, because if she sends men to threaten my wife again, she won't get them back in one piece." By now, the other two were scrambling. One clutched his shoulder, the other spat blood into the dirt. Both begged me to stop. "We didn't sign up for this, man. We thought it was just a scare job." I let them limp off, their engines sputtering as they fled. Sarah walked up beside me, brushing dirt from her jeans. She looked at her watch. 3 minutes exactly. Word traveled fast. That evening, Loretta stormed to our doorstep, pearls bouncing against her chest, face redder than a stop sign. She screeched about assault, about property damage, about how I had endangered community peace. But the bruised bikers weren't eager to press charges, and I had security cameras. I played the footage back for Loretta, letting her watch as her hired muscle got dismantled in high definition. Her face paled when the audio caught one biker muttering, "The HOA president paid us." By the time the next HOA meeting rolled around, the entire neighborhood buzzed with rumors. People whispered about bikers limping out of Oak Ridge, about the footage I supposedly had, and about Loretta's involvement. I didn't deny a thing. In fact, I brought my laptop, hooked it to the projector, and hit play. The room went silent. The gasps echoed when the bikers begged me to stop. The kicker was the line, "The HOA president paid us." She screeched that it was out of context, but it wasn't. Neighbors recorded the screen on their phones, passing it around. One neighbor stood up and quoted the law. Harassment, coercion, misuse of HOA funds. Loretta hadn't just overstepped, she'd turned the HOA into her personal mafia. Two of the bikers flipped on her, walking into the sheriff's office the next day with receipts, texts, and even a letter she'd signed promising payment. Loretta was arrested within the week, handcuffed, wailing about neighborhood safety, while deputies ignored her. The HOA voted her out unanimously. Reform started immediately. Transparency, oversight, and a strict ban on intimidation. But the real twist? Those same bikers came back weeks later, not in leather, in work shirts. They offered to help repair fences and do labor around the neighborhood as restitution. Humbled, polite, almost grateful. I just smiled. As long as you don't mess with my wife again, we'll get along fine. Sometimes HOA presidents think they run the neighborhood. Loretta thought she had an army. She forgot one thing. Some of us fight back harder than she could ever imagine.